Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 23 Driver Career Mode. I hope you all having a great day. Today we head to the Hungarian Grand Prix, and coming into this weekend, Ferrari has brought yet another chunk of upgrades. Look at their projection lately. They are now practically on par with our Red Bull Ford now, as we are off a huge hot streak of 2 back-to-back wins, then 2 back-to-back runner-up finishes. Can we keep that momentum going into Hungary? We'll have a quick chat here. Listen in on the start of the weekend with Christian Horner.
Keep doing what you're doing out there lately, Gary. We can fight for this title still.
Yeah, I agree, but what's going on with Max?
He can't find the sweet spot with the car. We're working on it, but we need to get him where he needs to be quickly.
And you hear that there. I mean, Max Verstappen just can't quite find the sweet spot. And can he find it? It's going to need to be quick now. Verstappen, of course, had moments previously in the career mode where he talked about, the intentions to leave Red Bull if nothing got sorted. And now here we are again, kind of circling back around to that after his 4th world title last season. However, I mean, we've been getting on great the last few episodes. Of course, it was an up and down start to the season, which we expected with the way Red Bull Ford started with this new collaboration with Ford, but as well, we were further down the R&D due to the regulation changes. Mercedes and McLaren, it looks like they cannot go any further in the R&D. It looks like they have maxed out cars. So now it's really us just playing catch up. Ferrari and Aston Martin as well are joining the party, and by the end of the season, it might be all over the place, but we as well don't know. There could be more regulation changes coming going into next season. I would like to see 3 to 4 departments, get changed in the regulations. I think that would be how you get your huge curveball. 2, of course, throws a bit of a curveball like it did this season, but it's not going to be massive like 3 or 4 could potentially be. Now, as we put on the helmet Saturday, ready for qualifying here in the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend. Usually not the best circuit for just straight up racing, but driving the circuit, a lot of fun. Under the clouds, overcast skies here. Q1, we go top of the board. That was a bit of a surprise, and we stayed up there, so that gave me a bit of a false hope here going into Q2, but the drivers out were Lawson, Mayer, Porcher, Butler, as well as Hughes. Connor Sport has brought upgrades into this weekend as well, so pay attention to them, although they have missed Q number 2, unlike what they did in the last couple of races. My efforts here in Q2, however, were alright. Wasn't great. You can see a snap of oversteer right there. It didn't take a great lap to advance, so we go P5 with a subpar lap, so that was pretty good, but it was Gasly, Zhou Guanyu, Felipe Drugovich, Esteban Ocon, and Ayumu Iwasa, the BMW pair drivers out, and same for the Alpines, and Zhou down there in 12th. The lone Williams made Q2. The expected teams all make it into Q number 3. We're back rolling here for what could be a 2-lap run in Q3, very likely to be the case. I got out in front of everybody, made sure I had some clean air, clean track to work with, not have to worry about traffic, and we overall have a decent opening lap, but I definitely underdrove some corners. You saw it right there. So I came around the track, and even with a mid-lap, we went P6. Again, there's some speed today, or this weekend, in this Red Bull Ford, and we found a 10th early on in Sector 1 on our second and final lap here, as we would maintain about that 1/10 to 1.5, now up to 2/10 of a second of an advantage here as we go through about halfway through this second sector now, and as we close into the end of the sector, a little bit of a lift right there to make sure I don't go over the track limit, so we give up a little bit of time, not too much here, as we come through these final sets of corners now. Through the left-hander, the penultimate corner, you can see the time goes down, but we gain it all back and then some on the exit. Down through the final sweeping right-hander, what's it going to be? We lose some more time, but it's going to be about 2/10 of a second to the good. We cross the stripe, it's only P3, and it would be Carlos Sainz setting a blistering lap for Ferrari to get up to second. We would drop behind him, obviously, down into 4th. It was Albon and Jackson split by the Ferrari, while Verstappen could not improve and only goes P7. Russell, Norris separated there by a few spots. Leclerc in the middle of that sandwich in P6. Let's get ready to go racing on Sunday. We've got some fighting speed today.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of Formula One action. Historically, a good race for first-time victories, with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the very first time right here. Located 12 miles northeast of the Hungarian capital Budapest, the 14 corners of the Hungaroring are steeped in history and prestige. Overtaking's always been difficult on this technical 2.7-mile track. The last few years in particular have turned up some exceptional races, so let's hope we're in for another one here today. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Alex Albon leads us away from pole position, and a very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Jackson, Golden Boy, Norris, Leclerc, Verstappen, Russell, Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Gasly, Joe, Drugovich, Ocon, Iwasa, Liam Lawson, Mayer, Teo Pourchaire, Butler and Jake Hughes. And now it's time to head down to the track. And joining me again for the race today, Natalie Pinkham. They've been involved in a number of costly incidents lately. That's got to affect their mindset going into this race.
It's not an ideal situation by any means. When you get into a bad run like that, there's always the risk of frustration creeping in, which can cause more mistakes and locks you into this vicious cycle. Hopefully today they can get through turn one cleanly and stay calm for the rest of the race.
I believe the championship fight is officially on. We have found some pace in the dry, which we have struggled even in the last episode in Canada when I threw it away on the final lap of that Grand Prix to Aiden Jackson, who picked up another win this season. Mediums, two hards. Let's see what we can do here today. Pretty straightforward strategy, no weather a threat. Let's get ready to roll.
So the formation lap is underway here in Hungary. The front runners will want to get themselves prepared for the race ahead, as they can expect to be attacked through the first two corners when the lights go out. And they'll need to survive those in order to kickstart what they hope is a promising race.
Only two drivers starting on mediums, Alex Albon, your pole winner, and myself, everybody else on the soft tire.
As the cars come back towards the grid to line up for the start of the race, each driver will be wanting to get the best start they possibly can. And they'll be hoping to finish today's race on the podium. Failing that, then the points.
All right, team, thanks for the hard work. We got a great car. I think we can fight for this championship now.
Oh, I agree, mate. Now go prove it.
Ready to roll, and like I said, it appears finally the dry track pace is there. I think we've got an opportunity now to truly fight for this championship and not have to focus on, capitalizing on other drivers' mistakes or fortune that comes our way with safety cars, red flags, whatnot. That's what we've been doing in weather, of course. That's what we've done in the last few episodes. We're ready to roll here in Hungary. What can we do as Alex Albon is set to lead the field to lights out in Hungary? What can Ferrari do? Let's find out. It's going to be lights out. We're racing here from the Hungarian Grand Prix. Well, that's what Ferrari can do. They go backwards. It's a terrible start for the Spaniard of Sainz. We get through that, no issues. Lando Norris to my left side, of course. As we dive down into turn one, we've got a bit of a history this season with Lando. Albon side by side with Jackson. Not for long. Albon's already clear. They're three wide. They were briefly for a couple rows deep. Verstappen, P7, going from the grid anyways, trying to move into the top five immediately here in this Hungarian Grand Prix. Sainz, however, not going to give it up easy. They're going to drag race up the elevation here towards the left-hander, but I think the advantage will be in the favor of Verstappen. Yes, it will. Verstappen completes the overtake. Sainz goes from second to sixth. He's got Oscar Piastri and then his Ferrari teammate of Charles Leclerc following in just behind. Now everybody just about single file as we go through this chicane where you don't want to be side by side, but there's a bit of it right there. It looks like one of the Alpines going at it with the Connor Sport machine, and you're going to see just how much time that costs everybody. Now Callie Mayer up the road there from her teammate and brother, of course, of Devin Butler, who now is able to get through as the two Alfa Romeo Haas cars at the back of the grid. But it's a McLaren 1-2 with Albon and Jackson. Aiden Jackson now the most wins of anybody this season, 4 to be exact, of course, now, and his wins have come in pairs. They've been back-to-back as well as we come through to end this opening lap here. You can see immediately one thing I was kind of noticing. seems like the soft tires are not really lighting up. They're not really kicking in, not gripping up the way that the medium currently was. And Albon's driving away from Jackson. Jackson has nothing for him and has become to enable DRS on lap number 3. You can see we have driven away from the cars behind. There's battles behind as well. Verstappen looking for a move on Norris, but hold on, Sainz is going to catch them both off guard. Maybe he dives up the inside of Verstappen and he's going to get alongside Norris as well. Of course, 2 former teammates, but right now Lando will hold on. But the battle continues up here. Albon 2 seconds about down the road, and we're all over the back of Aiden Jackson. He has got no pace right now in this McLaren. So here we are, turning on that DRS, opening that rear wing up, and we're going to look for a launch down into turn number 1 here, as it's going to leave the inside open, and it's pretty evident those softs are just quite simply not working. They're not activating right now. They don't have the pace, and we've seen this before at the start of some races. The softer compound tire ends up just not really kicking in, and the drivers that started on a bit harder of a tire, like a medium or a hard, are able to just outpace them, I should say. Now, as that happened, when I passed the McLaren of Jackson, this was Carlos Sainz actually going around the outside of Norris. So Lando Norris really struggling in these opening laps right now in that Mercedes, and then this would happen. He would have a lockup into the next corner. That opens the door for Verstappen, who went down to P6 after losing the spot to Sainz. He'll go back around up into the top 5 once again there. So our teammate into the top 5, still seeking his first podium of the season. You heard Horner talk about it, of course, in the beginning of the weekend. Just Verstappen not able to find what he needs. He can't find the sweet spot in the car right now, but the race continues to get worse for Lando Norris, and not just Lando Norris, but Mercedes in general, who have fallen off a cliff here in recent races. Piastri through into P6. Norris continues to fall. He's down to P7 now, down to P8 as we start lap 7, because here goes Leclerc through to take the position. Russell is in P11, not even in the points right now. What is going wrong with this Mercedes team? They need to figure out things quickly, because they are quickly falling off a cliff and becoming, the worst team of the best teams, you could kind of say, behind Ferrari and Aston Martin and Red Bull Ford, as well as this McLaren team. We're P2, 4 seconds up the road from Carlos Sainz, by the way. Aiden Jackson got run down by Sainz and passed, but we're closing in a little bit here on Alex Albon. We are now proving that dry pace is officially there. If we could have had this 1 episode ago, that would have been really nice in Canada. But yeah, there's pace in this car as we come to lap 10, 1.7 seconds a gap to Alex Albon, about 1.8, kind of going back and forth a few tenths every lap right now, just trying to close in on him. Now, the sweet spot for this circuit for me, Sector 2. That's where we're gaining basically all of our time throughout the lap, and then in Sector 1 and 3, we're either maintaining the gap or losing a tenth or 2. Nonetheless, though, the gap's coming down, and that's the most important thing. Verstappen down to P6 again, because the Aston Martin of Oscar Piastri was able to pass him. So Verstappen just struggling early on in this race, but no one struggling quite as bad as Lando Norris, who looks like he's about to be under attack from as well Tsunoda and Russell, who's moved back into the points. Gasly P11, and even the Alpines at the midfield, not that far back from some of these big teams. This is the closest they've been all season long after about 10 laps or so. So really interesting to see that now as those, lesser resource heavy teams are starting to maybe climb back into the mix, trying to get some upgrades. Here's Yuki Tsunoda now, lap 12 up the inside of Lando Norris, and that's another overtake done on the Mercedes. Down to 9th and 10th is the Mercedes duo. Very quick radio from Lando Norris.
I don't know what's wrong, guys. This is terrible.
Just keep fighting, Lando.
You hear the radio between Norris and Toto Wolff chiming in as well. The gap to Albon closing. Look at this, through this right-hander. This is where we're gaining time right here. Right now, Albon really struggling through this second sector, late in the second sector specifically now as we come around the final turn to end lap 12. Coming to 13, the gap now nearly down to a second. Now, it actually would increase to 1.5, but through turn 1, Albon struggling a little bit, and we close in just a tad bit there, but another tenth of a second. But right here, again, this is where the time's being gained. Albon just cannot roll that series of corners, and that allows us to get so close, but we couldn't quite get in the DRS as I missed the apex there on the right-hander. But Aiden Jackson coming to lap 15, going to come into the pits, but as well my teammate of Max Verstappen in as well, and it really hasn't turned into the season I expected. I was thinking we're going to go, head to head with Verstappen all season long, and it just hasn't happened. He has struggled to, find what he needs in that car. The only real teammate challenge we have truly had so far in our career was Fernando Alonso, who got the best of us in Season 2. We're now in the DRS of Alex Albon. We have run him down, as now the question is, who's going to pit first? The pit window opens here momentarily as we are closing in and now activating that DRS. The fight is about to potentially be on with Alex Albon. More pit stops behind. Oscar Piastri is in, putting on that medium compound tire. Charles Leclerc as well in, as Carlos Sainz continues to run in third place. So you'll be pitting at the end of this lap right here, and so will Yuki Tsunoda, Pierre Gasly, and others. Now, is look how close we get to the back of Albon. Our pit window opens lap 18, but I was thinking maybe trying to do a potential undercut here to try and actually get ahead of Albon. So coming through the penultimate corner, what does Albon do? He stays out. Okay, we're going to come in a lap early. We're going to try the undercut here on the McLaren and see if we can get in front of him. Now, we have had our fair share of battles recently, not only with Albon, but McLaren in general. A perfect pit entry there. You could not have done it any better than that one, really. Now, we're going to pull in, get those mediums off, throw on those hards. It's a very solid pit stop. We're already off and away. I mean, we really couldn't have asked for a better pit entry and pit stop. 2.2 seconds will exit back on the track, and even better for us, clean track. Albon, he's going to come into the pits at the end of this 18th lap. So we have, of course, the course of this lap right here to try and make up as much time as we can to do this undercut successfully and get ourselves ahead. Albon now in, starting lap 19, mediums off, hards on. Looks like a bit slower of a pit stop than I had, definitely for sure. And sure enough, through the final turn, down this front straightaway, setting a purple sector 3, we are going to be ahead of Alex Albon. We take the lead of the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's been a very calm race here so far. The last 4 races have been riddled and just filled with chaos and curveballs that we have taken advantage of. Today, no curveballs, and we have found ourselves up here anyways fighting for the win. So that is a huge step in the right direction for this Red Bull Ford program. Right now, 5.5 seconds to Carlos Sainz, 8.5 to Jackson, 11.6 to Oscar Piastri. Now, Ferrari have brought upgrades. We noted it in the beginning of the episode. It seems to be working for Sainz, not so much for Charles Leclerc. It's an extreme leap for Carlos Sainz. I mean, this is the best run we've seen, obviously, out of Ferrari this season. But Albon, 2 seconds back. Can he close in on us? The answer is maybe yes. The gap's staying relatively similar here as we come through to lap 24, approaching lap 25. The gap wasn't changing a whole lot, but as we come through to 25, you see, yeah, 2.1 seconds still around that 2.2 area. So he's flirting and keeping it the same, just trying to take a little chunk out at a time. But now as we approach 10 laps to go in this Grand Prix, let's go through the grid.
Owen's hot streak continues. He looks for 5 straight top 2 finishes for the first time in his Formula 1 career.
He is on a roll, and for the first time this year, we see the Red Bull be quick enough to put the fight to McLaren on a dry racetrack. The fight truly might be on, and the previous few races of chaos could be the deciding factor at the end of this year.
Oscar Piastri runs in 5th ahead of Verstappen, who cannot find the pace once again today. Any news on that, Ted?
He just can't find the pace, Crofty. You have to wonder what's gone wrong for the 4-time champion this year. There has been continuous rumours of Leclerc maybe leaving Ferrari. Could Verstappen's seat be an option for him if this continues?
But where would Verstappen go? Mercedes won't change their lineup. Would Ferrari simply just swap and bring Verstappen on board then?
I guess only time will tell. Joe having a solid run today in 11th place. The Alpine duo chasing him from 12th and 13th.
And Joe's teammate, Jake Hughes, all the way down in last place currently.
And there you see Teleport Chair as well as Jake Hughes, 19th and 20th to round out the grid. The gap has closed here to 1.6 seconds. Albon seems to be kicking things into drive, I guess you could say, or into gear, and he is definitely now on a bit of a roll. 1.5 seconds now. The gap has become to lap 29, so this is not over by any means, but the gap to Sainz and everybody else is growing. They were able to maintain their gap, early on in the run because they were on quicker tires and just, more grip, of course, but they were not able to keep that over the longevity of the run. 1.1 seconds now, lap 30, so it's starting to grow in my mind that, yeah, this is not over by any means. As we start lap 31, 5 to go. Now the gap right about that 1 second mark. Albon flirting with the DRS. 9/10 of a second. Yellow flags behind on lap 31. It's a Ferrari. It's Leclerc. Charles Leclerc with another mechanical failure, and he's out of the race.
This guys, I quit. You can find a new driver next year. I'm done with this.
Wow. Charles Leclerc just quit over the radio on Ferrari. How legitimate is it? We'll have to wait and see there, but Leclerc's done. He's had it. That's 2 mechanical failures in a row. Of course, he had the crash in Monaco. That's 3 DNFs in a row, and he's finally seems to be fed up with the Ferrari frustrations and hanging in there. You have to wonder what's in the future for him now, as a battle up front though between myself and Alex Albon is heating up. 3 to go. Now we approach 2 laps to go, and Albon really, he's not close enough to make a move, but we already know he's going to be making a final lap charge, and he's going to kick that, you know, ERS overtake battery into overdrive. It's going to be insane what he's going to be able to do on this final lap. So I was really just trying to set up for that now as we approach the final corner here, approaching the final lap in the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's been a calm Grand Prix outside of the Leclerc downfall that suddenly hit us now, but the white flag is in the air. Here comes Alex Albon. He's close. He's definitely going to be close enough to make a move into turn 1. We defend left. I want the run around the outside where there's more grip. Albon up the inside, wheel to wheel. He lunges it deep into the apex. He got ahead, but it's not going to be enough. He suffers on the exit. We stay ahead and drive away instead from Alex Albon now through towards sector 2. A bit of oversteer right there. Albon's right on us here as we go down into the chicane. We stay ahead, but there is zero room for an actual error, of course. Now as we go through this left-hander, Albon seems to be fading in the background a little bit, about half a second between us now, 7/10 of a second, as we knew he was going to struggle there, as he has really all race long. A bit wide. We take a warning for track limits, not too concerned about that now. A few corners to go. It's been a 2-win season. It should have been 3 in Canada. We threw it away in our home Grand Prix in Montreal last episode on the final lap to a McLaren of Aiden Jackson. A snap of oversteer out of the penultimate corner, but it's going to be okay through the final turn. Win number 3 on the season. This will equal the most wins we've had in a season of our F1 23 career.
Ah, fantastic drive. That's just fantastic. Amazing. You deserved that race win. Well done, mate.
Let's go. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Another one. We'll take it.
We're in this title fight now, baby. Great drive.
There'll be smiles at the factory after that one. A great race and a real team performance to take victory here in Hungary. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Quite simply, a driver is nothing without the team behind them. So, a deserved winner, but we do have to give a shout out to the team in the pit lane and back at the factory. Very much a collaborative process.
What a drive here in the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it was all the undercut that allowed us to kind of, you know, control the pace and keep Albon at bay at the end. So the undercut, you know, worked wonders today. And how about Ferrari and Carlos Sainz? Of course, the talk isn't even going to be us winning. It's not going to be a Sainz podium. It's going to be all the talk about Charles Leclerc and him, you know, seeming to quit over the radio and say you can find a new driver for next year. So we are going to have to wait for official confirmation, official word, which I'm sure with a radio comment like that, we're going to be getting official word on, you know, the legitimacy of that very quickly, as soon as maybe the next episode or 2. And in the next episode, we are headed to Britain, the British Grand Prix. So we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen there. Zhou Guan Yu picks up a point, by the way. How about that? Shout out to him. Of course, my favorite driver in Formula 1 getting P10. Always love to see it. The only DNF was Leclerc. Let's see how everything affects the points, because we continue to close in. Verstappen only P6, another rough day for Max. Things need to turn around quickly. 31 points is how far we are back. Jackson 9 back from Albon, and of course in the constructors fight, we unfortunately don't really, you know, make the gains that we need to be making because of Verstappen's struggles. 127 back as we are pulling away from Mercedes. I'll see you guys in the British Grand Prix. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.